Apple's upcoming iPhone 17 has just leaked, and it looks like this could be one of the most important affordable premium iPhones we've seen in years. Thanks to a new report from Front Page Tech, we now have an early look at its design, key specs, and where it fits in Apple's lineup, and there's even talk that it might be announced earlier than expected via a simple press release later this month. If you've been waiting for a cheaper way into the Apple ecosystem without sacrificing too much modern tech, the iPhone 17 might be the phone you've been looking for. Let's break down everything we know so far about the leaked iPhone 17 design, display, cameras, performance, Apple Intelligence support, price, and who this phone is really for. So, first up, what exactly is the iPhone 17? From what we know right now, the iPhone 17 is Apple's next affordable premium model, sitting below the main iPhone 17 lineup, but above entry-level or older refresh models. Think of it as the device for people who want a modern-looking iPhone with current features like Dynamic Island and Apple Intelligence, but don't want to pay flagship prices. According to Front Page Tech, Apple is planning to position the iPhone 17 very aggressively in markets where competition from mid-range Android phones is at its peak. That means strong value, carefully chosen compromises, and a design that finally feels modern. Let's talk about that design, because this is where the first big change happens. One of the headline upgrades for the iPhone 17e is that it's expected to drop the older, traditional notch and move to Apple's Dynamic Island design. That's the pill-shaped cutout you see on the latest flagship iPhones, used not just for the front camera and Face ID, but also for live alerts, background activities, and interactive animations. By adopting Dynamic Island, the iPhone 17e immediately looks and feels much closer to Apple's higher-end models. Visually, this is a huge step up from older designs, especially if you're upgrading from an iPhone, say iPhone 11, or even a notched iPhone 12 or 13. In terms of size, the iPhone 17e is rumored to feature a 6.1-inch display. That's the same sweet spot Apple uses for its standard models, large enough for gaming, streaming, and multitasking, but still compact enough to be comfortable for most users. However, there is one pretty clear compromise: the refresh rate. Multiple reports suggest that the iPhone 17e will still use a 60Hz panel instead of the smoother 120Hz ProMotion display found on Apple's Pro models. For most casual users, 60Hz will be perfectly fine. But if you're coming from a high-refresh Android phone or a recent Pro iPhone, you will notice the difference in scrolling smoothness and animations. That said, the overall look from the front: Dynamic Island, slim bezels, modern proportions, should make the iPhone 17e feel far less like a budget iPhone and much more like a current generation Apple device. Now, let's move to the cameras, because Apple is quietly making some interesting changes here. On the front, the iPhone 17e is tipped to feature an upgraded 18-megapixel selfie camera. That's a notable bump from what we've typically seen on Apple's front-facing shooters, and it's not just about raw megapixels. The leak also claims that this front camera will support center stage. If you're not familiar with center stage, it's Apple's smart framing feature that automatically keeps you centered in the shot during video calls. Move around, lean, or shift in your chair, and the camera digitally pans and adjusts so you stay in focus and in frame. This makes a big difference for FaceTime calls, work meetings, content creation, and live streaming. An 18MP sensor with center stage support suggests Apple is taking front-facing video and creative-style content more seriously, even on this more affordable iPhone. On the back, things are more conservative, but still promising. The iPhone 17e is expected to stick with a single 48-megapixel Fusion camera on the rear. The design here is reportedly almost identical to its predecessor, so don't expect a big visual overhaul or a new multi-camera array. However, Apple's 48MP Fusion system has already proven that it can punch above its weight thanks to smart image processing. The Fusion name refers to Apple's approach of combining data from different exposures and pixel binning techniques to deliver sharp, detailed photos with good dynamic range and low light performance, even if there's only one rear camera. Key this time around is that the iPhone 17e won't just rely on that 48MP sensor alone. It will also benefit from the improved processing power of a newer chipset and Apple Intelligence features. That means smarter HDR, better noise reduction, improved portrait shots, and potentially more powerful on-device editing tools, all working together to lift image quality without needing extra camera lenses. Now let's get into the performance story, because this is where the iPhone 17e really becomes interesting for the price. Internally, the iPhone 17e is rumored to be powered by a lower bin version of Apple's A19 chipset. Lower bin basically means it's a slightly less powerful or more power-efficient version of the same core chip used in Apple's higher-end models, tuned to hit a lower price point while still delivering strong performance. Even as a lower bin variant, an A19 chip will be a serious upgrade over what you normally expect at this price level. Everyday tasks like browsing, messaging, social apps, and light gaming are going to feel very smooth. More importantly, it should give the iPhone 17e plenty of headroom for years of software updates. The leak also says the iPhone 17e will come with 8 GB of RAM. That's an important number because it aligns with Apple's push towards Apple Intelligence, the company's suite of on-device AI features. More RAM and a newer chip mean this phone should be able to support advanced AI experiences such as smarter Siri interactions, generative text tools, enhanced photo and video editing, and more responsive on-device intelligence, without constantly relying on the cloud. In other words, even though the iPhone 17e is positioned as a more affordable model, Apple isn't cutting it off from the future of iOS and Apple Intelligence. On the connectivity side, the iPhone 17e is rumored to include Apple's new C1X networking chip. While we don't have the full technical breakdown on this yet, a new networking chip usually means faster, more efficient wireless performance. That could translate to better 5G stability, stronger Wi-Fi performance, improved location services, and possibly more efficient power consumption during heavy data use. There's also a big quality of life upgrade coming to charging and accessories. MagSafe. According to the leak, MagSafe charging is finally making its way down to this tier of iPhone for the first time. That means the iPhone 17e should support Apple's magnetic wireless charging system, allowing you to snap on chargers, wallets, battery packs, and stands with that satisfying click. For users stepping into the Apple ecosystem, MagSafe support is a big deal. It opens up a huge ecosystem of accessories and brings the 17e much closer to the experience you get on more expensive iPhones. Now, let's talk about pricing and colors, because this is where the iPhone 17e really seems to lock in its identity. As a value-focused device, pricing is reportedly set to start at around $599. That's the same ballpark as its predecessor, which suggests Apple is very intentionally holding the line here to stay competitive against powerful mid-range Android phones from brands like Samsung, OnePlus, Xiaomi, and others. At $599, you'll be getting a modern Dynamic Island design, a 6.1-inch display, an 18MP front camera with center stage A48MP Fusion rear camera, a lower bin A19 chip with 8 GB of RAM Apple Intelligence. Features support a new C1X networking chip, MagSafe charging support. That's a compelling package at this price, especially if you've wanted to join or stay in the Apple ecosystem without crossing into flagship price territory. As for colors, the iPhone 17e is expected to launch in at least 2 core options: standard black, standard white. On top of that, Apple is reportedly considering a lavender variant. A soft pastel-like purple would line up nicely with Apple's history of offering 1 or 2 playful colors in its more mainstream models, appealing to younger buyers or anyone who wants something more expressive than plain black or white.